In this video, I'm going to teach you guys how to play Succession Lahn, and so what are we waiting for? Let's get this started. First of all, try this combo, which is SF and then holding down RMB all day and see what happens. After that, same thing with SF, but then we're gonna press LMB and see what happens. One downside of that combo in PvP is that it uses the bounce a lot and floatings. So they're basically permanently stunned, and so we can't actually give a knockdown for that. And so that's the downside about it. However, a lot of Succession Lahn players actually doesn't recommend using this ability right here. So what you guys want to do is actually lock right here. So we're gonna lock this skill, and then we're gonna do SF and then press RMB and then see what happens. And so it skips all the process that I taught you guys there, and then just moves on to the RMB skill, which is the nice skill that people usually like to use, which is the blade dance. Once you guys lock that skill, try this combo. So just like I shown you guys in that video, what the plan is basically, we're going to use this 5 skills right here. After this 5 skills, then we're gonna add one of this ability, and then after using one of this ability, all this cooldown is going to reset. And so after using this 5 ability, we can do this, and then after that we can come back here and then do 5 abilities and then do that, and then 5 abilities again, and then like shift Q. And so these are basically like a filler, and so you want to use some kind of ability right here after using this 5 skills right here. And then don't forget also to self buff, which is going to be A or D with RMB and then Q. And so it can be once again 1 2 3 4 5 skill 1 2 3 4 5. If your self buff is over, then do that, right? And do these 2, and then after that we can go back to this again if you want, and then do filler, and then go back once again, basically all day. And so with that, let's practice together. I'll put the tutorial on the left side and so you guys can follow along. So we're gonna do C, F, SF, and then hold RMB. And then after that, we're gonna do LMB, RMB, and then we can do Shift X. And then after using that ability, look, it's all over again. So we're gonna press C again, F, SF, RMB all over again. And then after that, LMB, RMB. And so this one is on cooldown, so now we can do like Shift LMB and add that instead, right? And that's how we can basically loop all day for Succession Lahn. And then don't forget to self buff. So we're gonna do A or D and with the RMB, and then Q. And then after that, same combo. And then Shift Z's up, and then C's up again, and then S, SF, and then hold down RMB again, then LMB. And then Shift LMB. Stuff like that. And then just all over again, guys. It's really fun. Super nice for PvE grinding. So let's say that we don't have any mana. What you guys can do is using this ability, which is Pendulum Cleaver. This is only good for PvE grinding. And so whenever you guys are out of mana, you guys can use that. But just keep in mind there's no super armor. So that's very bad to use on PvP. Hold the RMB skill, and then you guys will use this skill called Blade Dance. And then if you guys keep holding it, it looks something like that. Only downside with this skill is that it doesn't have any super armor in the very beginning, but then after that it has a super armor. So your first attack is going to be risky, and so just use it at your own risk. Next skill, we have this skill, which is Dismemberment, and if you guys do so, you guys can actually get AP buff. And so what you guys want to do is do that and then engage to the enemy, or try to use that during your combo, so that way you guys can easily get that AP 12 buff right there. Next, we have this ability. In order to use it, we just do Shift RMB, and then if you guys just hold RMB, there's a flow skill. So that's a really nice skill that you guys can use right there. It does have floating, but once again, it doesn't have any protection, and so you guys can use that on your own risk. Next, we have this ability called Furious Chase, and this skill is really nice because it does have forward guard and he has a CC. So if you guys actually land the stiffness, then you guys can give some kind of a knockdown, which you guys actually have in skill enhancements. So you can figure guys quickly come over here and then use like Eyes of Blood, which is Shift X. That's another way to give knockdown, for example. So let's say that we actually use this ability, which is W+RMB, and then Shift X for your first knockdown, for example, and that's how you guys can get down on PvP. And then if you guys hold the W+RMB, it does perform 2 ability like that, and so yeah, give that a try. Next, we have the Eye of the Phoenix, and in order to use it, we have to press spacebar during the certain skill. And so what I usually like to do is, for example, if you do the SF and then left click. At the end, you can press spacebar and then give them another stun or more damage and so on. And so those are the scenarios that you guys can add this during your middle combo. Next, we have this skill, which is Purge. It's a really nice skill. It has an all DP minus 20. And then in order to use it, is Shift Q. Only downside with this skill is that it's 16 seconds cooldown. And that's a very, very long time to use it. So you guys can also use it for being aggression to give CC, or you guys want to hold it off to debuff the enemy once they get CC, for example. And then if you guys hover this skill, you guys can actually perform other ways as well to use this skill, but I'm not going to cover it on this video, but just wanted to bring this up so that way you guys can maybe try something cool with this combo right here. And then next skill that we're going to talk about is the Cymbidium, and in order to use it is SF. And so it looks something like this. If you guys use the ability, and has a first bound. And so that's a really nice skill, and also has a forward guard. So that's a really nice way to give some CC to the enemy. Next, we have this skill, which is Berated Ghost. In order to use this ability, you actually have to put this on a hotkey. So for example, you have to put it on number 1 in order to use it. The reason behind that is Shift+LMB, and then if you guys do the Magnus quest, it's also Shift+LMB for this one. But at the same time, you don't really use this skill. It's not really good. It has nothing, no CCs, and so it's only basically good for PvE. And PvP, you would basically never use it, but it will look something like this if you guys use this ability on the hotkey. So I press number 1, and it will look something like that. And then if you guys press number 1 and then hold down LMB, you guys can actually repeat, and it will look something like this. And then after that, it uses the flow skill, which is right here, Crescent Barrage. Next, we have this skill called Spring Breeze, and in order to use it, you guys have to press WF, and then keep holding down WF to land like this. It does not have any super armor at the end, so you're basically coming in and saying hello. And then after that, once you land, you have nothing, and so they're gonna kill you. And so what you guys want to do actually on that scenario is actually using this skill right here, Purge. And so in order to use this ability, you guys can press Q. So if you guys hover it, once again, it tells you guys how to use it. But here it says use Q after using the Spring Breeze. And so what we're going to do is when we actually land on the enemy, we're going to press Q. Boom, just like that. And so on that scenario, we had super armor in the little bit time. And then we were able to like land successfully with super armor. And so that's what you guys want to do in that scenario. So once again, if you do it properly, this is what it looks like. And then it actually has a floating, and so it's a nice way to, you know, give aggression damage like that. However, the Purge has a really long cooltime, which is 16 seconds. So, yeah, definitely that's the only downside I can say for Succession Lahn. If they buff this and reduce the time, I think she'll have a lot of potential on PvP. Next, we have this ability, which is Crescent Barrage, and it only has super armor at the second. So on the first attack, it has nothing, so it might be risky to use on PvP, but it will look something like this. And if you guys also keep holding down the down LMB, and you guys can keep continuing the skill. So once again, has a good super armor at the end. For PvP scenario, maybe I will use this as a lingering essay. So before we engage to the enemy, and if you need to get your stamina back, for example, that's what I would use right here. So I would use this right now. And then boom, stop like that. And then look how long the super armor is, right? And so we can maybe use that as a lingering essay. Next, we have this skill called Soul Ascent. And in order to use it, is Shift F and then hold F to perform second. So it will look something like this. Just like that. The first one has a stiffness, it's really nice, but once again, it doesn't have any protection, so it can be risky to use it on PvP. Next, we have this ability, which is Blooming Nether Flower. In order to use it, we just press LMB RMB. It's very nice skill, lots of AoE damage for PvE and PvP, and it has a super armor, lots of damage, and it's only 7-second cooldown, so it's very, very nice skill to add once in a while, every time you guys do some kind of combo that I'm going to teach you guys later on. Next, we have this ability, which is Wind Orchid, and in order to use it, we have to press down RMB. And then he has a knockdown, so this is very nice to give CC on PvP if you guys can. If not, you guys can try to use other abilities to do so, but once again, he has a foreguard in the beginning and then knockdown, so give it a try and see if you guys can give some CC like that. Next, we have this skill, which is Sacred Dance, and it's down and then LMB RMB. This one can be kind of tricky to use, and so maybe I would recommend putting in a hotkey and then use it. I think that's the best way to use it. So if you press number 1 now, this is what it looks like. It has super armor, and then It's a very long super armor actually, and so you guys can actually use it for lingering SA as well for PvP. Next, if you guys do Magnus Quiz, we have this one, Fatal Attraction, which is Shift+LMB. It's a really nice way to disengage to the enemy, like that, and then it goes backwards, and then he has a forward guard in the front. So what we want to do, for example, if you do the WF combo, holding WF, and then pressing Q, and then we can also use the Shift+LMB to disengage, and coming back like that. So that can be like another good strategy. If not, you guys can also press like Shift, spacebar like that, Shift S like this, if you guys can, to back out. Or again, you can just do WF, hold Q after, and then after that Shift+LMB to come backwards a little bit like that. Next we have E buff, is literally pressing E, and then we get ourselves attack speed 25%, critical hit rate 20%, movement speed 30%, all resistance 30% as well for 30 seconds. Next, this is gonna be a good skill, which is Phantom Dance. The best part about this skill is that you guys can literally use it all day. Only downside with this skill is the stamina, and so watch out for that. Make sure you guys don't drain your stamina so well just using this all day. So what you guys want to do is like movement skill that I teach you guys. But what usually Lahn play as her playstyle is like staying on a high ground, checking your team out. So, and then if they're fighting over there, and if there's like a wizard over here, what you guys want to do is like fly to them, Q, disengage, and then stuff like that, right? And then try to get that players in the backside. So that's what Lahn's supposed to do as well, and so do something like that. But once again, this is gonna be your best friend. It's literally A or D with shift. You guys can spam it, just make sure you're watching your stamina. And then another good skill that it offers us is going to be Bleeding Hearts. This one is very nice skill because it's only 7 seconds as well, which is very short. And then the best part is that it has the debuff of all DP. So you guys always want to use this, either you guys are on PvP or PvE, and then try to debuff the enemy. And then for those people who are not sure what skill add-ons, that's another example that I will use. Is when I use this ability, it can also stack with the skill add-ons. And so for example, if I use it right now, as you guys can see, this is from the main skill, and these twos are coming from the skill add-ons like this. And so that's what I would do right there. Instead of using like 2 abilities, I can just literally use C and then give them like naked, and then that's how you guys can do like combo, which is like SF that I taught you guys with LMB combo, or you know, SF with a RMB combo, stuff like that. Next, let's talk about secondary skill, which is Q. You can also spam that, but then the best part is that it gives you guys actually a nice buff, which is like movement speed 5%, attack speed 18%, and then you can also sprint for 15 seconds while moving forward, and then it will not like consume the stamina, for example. So what you guys can do is, for example, remember using the AD RMB, it gives you guys all AP plus 12. And so what you guys want to do is like that, and then pressing Q, and then getting yourself like full buff like that on PvE grinding. And so before you guys engage to the enemy, either PvE or PvP, you guys can also always just buff yourself, which is A and D, and then pressing RMB, and then Q. And then get yourself all this buff, and then engage with WF or something like that, whatever you guys want to do, and then go from there. Next one we can talk about is right here, Primrose Sprint, which is shift and then down, which will basically go through the enemies like this. And so if you guys ever get stuck on PvE grinding, you can literally just use that and then just back out safely. Has iframe, and the cooldown is only 4 seconds, so it's very nice skill you guys can use. And so with that skill too, with WF and then holding Q, and then you guys can back out like that, right? Or you guys can also use the Fatal Attraction, which is Shift+LMB that I taught you guys, to back out like that as well. And this is the reason why you guys play Succession Lahn, because you can basically fly. And so in order to use it, we have to press Shift spacebar, and then after that, keep holding Shift and see what happens. And then after that, we have Nimbus Dismount. We can basically do some kind of a cool sidestep during the midair. So after we use Nimbus Stride, we can also press A and D Shift in the midair. I'll show you exactly what I mean. Just like that. Next, we have this one, which is Fragrant Stigma, and then basically it's an aggression attack. So when you guys are flying, if you guys press LMB, it basically slams on the floor, and then try to give CCs on the enemy. And so this is what it looks like on PvP, flying, and then if you guys press LMB on front of them, they will get bounded if they actually land a hit, if they do not have any protection. Next one, let's say that they're kind of still far away if you guys press LMB. So what you guys can also do is pressing RMB. So it will look something like this. And then give us stiffness. It's very nice. I think I actually like that one better than LMB. And then lastly, we have another cool landing. And in order to use it, we just press F while we are flying. And it will look something like this. And then it has a super armor. It does have stun as well. So it will look something like this. Personally, I think this one has better AoE. And so probably that's the one that where it's at. For example, if you guys use F and then if you guys do it in the middle and if you guys don't hit anybody, nothing happens. And so your accuracy have to be like precise and very, very accurate. But if you use the Morning Dew, I'll show you guys what I mean. It has better AoE. Same spot, but then it will still land on somebody. And has just bigger AoE in general. And so that's what I would recommend for you guys. Last but not least, now we have this skill which is going to be Pendulum Kick. And it is going to be your favorite skill as a Succession Lahn. And in order to use it, we just press F. And then if you guys hold F, it will keep using the ability as well. And then the best part is that it has a knockdown. And the juicier even part is that it even has a 80% attack speed. So now you guys know exactly what you guys need to do right here. Which is coming to this guy, find the Pendulum Kick. And you guys figured it out. This is what I'm going to use. Attack casting speed 10%. And then you guys can do anything. So for example, if you're PvE grinding, sure. Let's do monster damage. And then this is what it looks like. And then if you use it, now we have monster damage and we have attack speed from the normal skill. And then we also have another 10% from the skill add-on. So that's the stuff that you guys can give it a try and then get yourself 28% in total for attack speed. Now let's talk about skill enhancements. And so there's going to be Eyes of Blood right here and then Phoenix Chased. Personally, I like this one because it has a knockdown and this one only has a stun. And so for example, let's say that your F was on cooldown or down RMB was also on cooldown. Then you guys can easily just press Shift X and then also give them a CC. Boom, just like that, and then gives them a knockdown. And so PvP, I would definitely use this, but PvE grinding, it's up to you guys, whatever you guys want to do. And then after that, we have White Huron, or we have Trail right here. And personally, I like this one because if you guys look at it, it has ult DP minus 15. So if you guys look at Lahn, she doesn't really have a lot of debuff skills besides this one, and then the Shift Q, which is going to be this one. But this one is only like really long cooldown, 16 seconds. And then the efficient one would be like 7 seconds for this one. And so that's why if you have another debuff skill would be very, very nice, which is pressing Shift to Z. And then he has a frontal guard and he also gives them a debuff. And so that's why I think it's really, really nice. And then next, I also put the Nether Flower for debuff because he has a really nice, good AoE skill. So, you know, you guys can also press that and then give them a debuff, right? And then if you guys use the skill enhancements, which is going to be Shift Z, now they're basically naked and ready to be damaged. And then lastly, we have either Blade of Souls or we're going to have Sacred Dance of Souls. So this one's really up to you guys. If you guys want to be more aggressive player, then definitely Blade of Souls is where it's at. And then he also has a knockdown. So if you guys put this in a hotkey on number 3, for example, boom. Right, it has a knockdown. That's why it's really nice. So you have more knockdown options, which is Eyes of Blood, Blade of Souls, pressing F, which is knockdown, down RMB. So she is amazing with knockdown skills. So make sure you guys use that, all the knockdown abilities. She definitely has really good benefits of it. Just keep in mind, if you guys hover some of the skills, like this one, it says knockdown on hits on PvE only. So even though if there's a light like this, sometimes it's going to fake you. And so, yeah, what PA could done better here is like, you know, PvP and PvE filter. So that way people doesn't get confused like this. Anyhow, yeah, and so I would definitely use Blade of Souls right here in the end. And then this one, and then Eyes for Blood for PvP scenario. And then so far with skill add-ons, we learned that, you know, this one has really good debuff. And so PvE wise, I think I would definitely use this for debuffing. And then we can also use Bleeding Hearts for debuffing. And then we can use Pendulum Kick for attack speed. And then AP against monsters. And so now let's talk about some CC ideas that we can do as a session long, which is going to be WF 1st. And then once you guys land, pressing Q. That's basically the best engagement as a succession Lahn. Or you guys can basically fly. And then remember the LMBs or RMBs or F. That can be an option as well for engagement. And then let's say that we're kind of close to the enemy, to each other like this now. So what we're going to do is movement skill practice. And so practice with me. Let's go together. So movement skill is really nice because it has an iframe in the beginning, and then we're going to use a skill that has like a safety, super armor with some CCs. So for example, it's going to be movement and then press F. And then if you guys hold F, it actually has super armor. So let's give that a try again. So boom. Just like that. And when we do 3 kicks, it's going to have super armor. So this is what you guys want to practice first. And then after that, we're going to do movement skill and then add that in there again. And then after that, we're going to do maybe like SF and then holding down LMB. So we're going to do it all over again. Let's go back. Movement skill. Movement SF. And then holding down LMB. And then you guys will basically have all the super armor and then movement skill. And then now you guys can add other options, which will be like using Furious Chase or Wind Orchid. So if you do this one right here, movement skill, it has a knockdown and forward guard, so that's why it's really good. And then we can do movement skill again, and then adding the W+RMB to give also CC with the frontal guard. So let's go all over again together. So we're gonna be movement skill, movement SF, holding LMBs, movement and the W+RMB, for example, or movement down RMB. And stuff like that. And so if you guys practice that, that's basically the best way to give CC to the enemy. So if you guys practice that, then you guys are solid in PvP. Just keep watching your stamina, and if it gets low like this, and if you have about like 19 stamina, just run away, right? You guys can always fly out like this and, you know, back out, disengage, get your stamina back on. And then when they're close enough, WF again, and then pressing Q. And then if you guys land a shot, that's also another good way to give CC as a session Lahn. And if they get CC, you guys know exactly what to do, which is pressing Shift X or even number 3 on the hotkey that we put. They all have knockdowns, so that's why it's really, really nice. And this can be very, very helpful for 1v1s, but 3v3s, just watch out on your surroundings. If you guys use that ability, maybe somebody might be behind you, right? And so you want to be careful. So you want to use something like a protection CC that has a knockdowns, for example, using the pendulum kick, or we can use the down RMB as well, which also has a knockdown. So let's say that we use one of the CC and then just use the combo that we learned from the first video, and it would look something like this. So we just do movement skill, but this was an example of movement skill of Wind Orchid, which is SRMB. And if you get knocked down, press C for debuff, F for second knockdown, SF, and then RMB right away. And then just damage, 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 and then LMB RMB for more damage. And then you want to disengage with Shift+LMB with Fatal Attraction. While I was making up the combo, I also find something really cool, which is using the Fatal Attraction much faster. So if you do right now, she does something like that in the very beginning, and that can be very annoying. So in order to quick cast, we can use this ability, which is going to be called Furious Chase. So if you do W+RMB and then use the Fatal Attraction, then this is what it looks like and have a quicker casting. Something like that. So when we do the combo, just make sure you guys can add the Furious Chase after that, and then you guys can use the Fatal Attraction afterwards. So it will look something like this at the end, and you makes it much smoother for your combos at the end. And then let's say that when we were doing the movement skill that I taught you guys, and then let's say that one of them was pendulum kick, but pendulum kick was the one that was like already on your combos. So what you guys can do now is replacement as a skill enhancements, and then make sure you guys can use something like Eyes of Blood, which is Shift X, or you guys can also use Blade of Souls. So it would look something like this. And then for skill add-ons, this is just can be an example for PvE grinding. For example, Pendulum Kick, I added extra against monsters plus 30 and attack casting speed. And the reason behind that is if you guys press F, it already gives us attack speed. And so if you guys actually land a hit, then you guys can also gain attack speed for that and get a double stack. And then after that, Nether Flower is just really good debuff. It has big AoEs, and so I think that's a really good skill to add like a debuff skill right there. Same thing with Bleeding Hearts, it already has a debuff right there, and so if you use more debuffs, it's basically good. And then after that, it's just playing by ears. And so for example, I just added like critical hit rate 30%, critical hit damage 5% on this one. Blade Dance, I added basically more DP and 100 bleeding damage per 3 seconds. And if you guys use RMB, it just stays in the same spot for a long time. So I just assume that it'll be nice to have some little more DP while you guys are using the ability, for example. And then after that, lastly, we have like Fatal Attraction, which I can add maybe back attack damage, all accuracy rate 5%. So for example, when we are fighting this guy in front of us, all we have to do is literally turn our mouse and then go behind them, right? And now we're behind them, and so now what you guys can do is like give damage and then do like a back attack. And so that's why I thought back attack would be a good idea for Fatal Attraction right there. But once again, PvP can change as well. Like, so for example, we don't need monster damage, so maybe instead of that we can add like, you know, human damage and give more damage on PvP, for example, in that scenario, and stuff like that. And so yeah, hopefully this guide helped you guys. And that is it with this video. Hopefully you guys learned something. If so, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next video. Ciao for now.